So a few days ago, I did an interview with Andrea Rossi. I like to talk to him on a fairly regular basis, just because even if you may not get a huge amount of new information from him, you may get a sense of where things are. And I think there are a few things that came out of that interview that were interesting to me. Maybe just a few little details. Here we are, we're almost to the end of the first quarter of 2025, and he did say that it is his intention to release or start to release products this year, and I didn't sense any kind of backpedaling from him, although he said, he cannot predict exactly what's going to happen. So, I think that it's his intention to do this. I think his goal is set on this, which I think is positive, because we've been waiting for years now for ECAT products to appear, and the intention is still there, and it sounds like the product is ready, except for some design details. I think it sounds like he's still working on. He even mentioned packaging is something that they're still working on, and he said that they would not decide on a final design of the ECAT until maybe even a few days before they start distributing. So it sounds like we won't know the dimensions, the weight of the ECAT, until very close to the distribution date, which is kind of interesting to me that he would. I mean, this is just Rossi. That's the way he is. He's continually tinkering and improving his products. That's just the way he's been. And anyway, that was kind of interesting to me. Another thing that I was a little bit surprised about was when I asked about the partnership, and he seemed to be implying that the current partnership that he is involved in is not a worldwide partnership. It's territory bound. So I think I asked him I asked him a question about could anybody make a deal with him for working on developing ECATs, and he said, well, it depends on the territory. So to me, that makes it sound like the current partner that he's working with is working in a specific territory, and he would not define those territories, would not explain what they are. But he did say it sounded like he would be open to agreements if they were in the appropriate territory. And he said that any agreements, if they start talking about agreements, then an NDA is required. So who knows, there may be other agreements in process at the moment. But anyway, it sounded to me like that the new partner is not going to be the worldwide manufacturer of all ECATs. That's just kind of how it came across to me. And I think that my understanding was that the previous agreement he had with Quantum Legacy Foundation, to me it sounded like that was like an agreement for worldwide manufacturing, which I don't think that's the case anymore. They were asking for money up front for pre-orders, and it sounded like they were asking for money up front for sub-licensees. And Rossi admitted that that had not crossed his mind that they would do that. He took it for granted that they wouldn't do that, and to me it seemed like that was their business model. That was the way they were going to make money, was to get money, get a portion of the pre-order money. It was half the pre-order money they were asking for, and that was totally, Rossi was not going to accept that. But he hadn't even thought that they might do that. Plus they increased the price, which again, I don't think that was very, I mean, as soon as they ended the agreement, then Rossi put the prices down. So I don't think he was really in favor of them raising prices like they did. But, you know, you'd think he would have thought about that before making such an agreement. And he said that was his fault. He was at fault for that. Not making that clear from the outset. So he says that's a lesson learned, and we'll see how things go from there on. Let me think of any other things that stood out to me. I think those are the main things that I took away from the interview. Oh, he did mention another thing. I guess another thing was he mentioned that there is, I asked him about like an announcement when the distribution starts, would there be an announcement? And he said, yes, we have a media agreement already in place. So how that turns out remains to be seen. Oh, and of course, I did get into politics a little bit. I asked him, you know, have you thought about this being such a disruptive technology and such a that it might have effect on politics might enter into it, because it could have a big effect on really economics. There's never been a product like this in the world ever, and the implications are that it could really change a lot in the way that people produce or distribute energy. And again, you know, he says, I'm not a politician, but I don't think there's a way to avoid political implications with this product. I think it's going to be very clear that people are going to start thinking, hang on, if people can produce energy 24/7 at home, what's that going to mean for utilities? What's that going to mean for jobs? And it's not just at home. It would be, you know, energy production in business, and without the need for purchasing lots of oil or gas or nuclear materials. That's going to have a huge effect if this gets off the ground. So anyway, I think, you know, I think he's playing he's being pragmatic, that he doesn't want to ruffle any feathers. And he also mentioned that he thinks that this is a technology that the majority of people in the world will support. So I feel like that's true. The average person wants to save money on their electricity bills. They want to have the convenience of not being bound to a grid, especially when it comes to like energy security. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. Again, depending on whether this actually becomes widespread technology. Even today, you know, you hear the rooftop solar is becoming controversial in some areas, because I think utilities see that it's a threat to their traditional business model. And if you think rooftop solar is disruptive, you know, the ECAT is going to be far, far more disruptive than rooftop solar. So ECAT and politics, I think, are on a, I wouldn't say maybe not collision course, but there's certainly going to be a rendezvous if people start using this on a large scale. And I don't know how that's going to turn out. You know, I think there's going to be in my mind, if the ECAT is wildly popular with the public, there will be politicians who will be fully supportive of it, because politicians are always looking to do things that will bring them popularity. But on the other hand, I suppose there's going to be politicians who are representing people who might be affected by the ECAT. You know, if people start losing their jobs in the energy sectors, they're going to be wondering, what recourse do we have? How can we deal with this? So, I don't know. I think it's a very open question about how this all will play out. Again, assuming that it becomes widespread and well known, we shall see. So there are a few of my thoughts. Going forward, let's keep an eye on news regarding ECAT release. See if we can actually get some into our hands this year. Thank you very much.